Hello everyone, my name is Brayden, this is Airless Quill 9, and in today's video we're going to talk about Brass Dragons. These are dragons of Lore and Rapport, as they are described in the 2024 Monster Manual, and they are typically found in desert habitats, and the treasures that they like to keep in their hoards are those rolled on the Arcana table, which is found in the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide. Now, gregarious and outgoing, brass dragons relish sharing knowledge and stories. Although these metallic dragons favor arid lands, they cheerfully journey considerable distances to visit friendly creatures, pass on what they've learned, and collect news. Though good-natured, brass dragons don't shirk from combat when necessary, thwarting foes with magical sleep and searing them with flame. Brass dragons favor warm climes, particularly steeps and rocky or sandy deserts, and they usually dwell near prominent crossroads or oases that regularly draw visitors. They enjoy adopting humanoid forms, disguising themselves as traveling merchants, scholars, storytellers, or anyone else invested in other stories. Brass dragons collect eclectic objects. While such items might seem like knickknacks, each is part of a story, perhaps a nostalgic memento or evidence of a tale passed into myth. An old friend's hat and the crown of the last ruler of a forgotten dynasty could occupy the sand shelf in a brass dragon's hoard. So let's take a look at each of the 4 stat blocks and their revisions for the 2024 Brass Dragons. First off, we're going to look at the Brass Dragon Wyrmling. This is a medium dragon, metallic. It is chaotic good. It has an armor class of 15, an initiative of +2, 22 hit points, a speed of 30 feet, a burrow speed of 15 feet, and a fly speed of 60 feet. For its ability scores, it has a strength of 15, a dexterity of 10, a constitution of 13, an intelligence of 10, a wisdom of 11, and a charisma of 13. It also has proficiency in dexterity and wisdom saving throws. For its skills, it has perception at +4 and stealth at +2. It is immune to fire damage. And for its senses, it has blind sight of 10 feet and dark vision of 60 feet. It also has a passive perception of 14. Languages, it knows Draconic, and the Brass Dragon Wyrmling is a challenge rating 1 creature, giving it 200 experience points and a +2 proficiency bonus. Now for the actions. The Brass Dragon Wyrmling has a rend attack, which is a melee attack roll +4 to hit and reach of 5 feet. On a hit, it deals 1d10 +2 slashing damage. Fire Breath is a recharge of 5 to 6. It is a dexterity saving throw, DC 11, and each creature in a 20-foot long, 5-foot wide line needs to make that save. On a failure, a target takes 46 fire damage, and on a success, they take half damage. Sleep Breath is a Constitution saving throw, DC 11, and it targets each creature in a 15-foot cone. On a failure, the target has the incapacitated condition until the end of its next turn, at which point it repeats the save. On a second failure, the target has the unconscious condition for 1 minute. This effect ends for the target if it takes damage, or a creature within 5 feet of it takes an action to wake it. Alrighty, now that we've done that, let's take a look at all the differences from 2014. So first off, the armor class of the Brass Dragon Wyrmling has actually gone down by 1. It used to be a 16, and is now a 15, so there is a slight decrease there. However, it has gained an additional hit die, so its hit points have gone up from 16 to 22, so it's a give and get there. The Brass Dragon Wyrmling has also lost proficiency in Constitution and Charisma saving throws, as has every dragon in this book, so that's not new there. Rend has replaced the bite attack, since that is now a consolidation of all of its attacks. So nothing really changed there. It just still does the same amount of damage, albeit slashing instead of piercing. The fire breath has not changed at all. However, the sleep breath mechanically has changed. Not only is it now a 2 saving throw dependent feature, sleep breath is now entirely independent from the Brass Dragon Wyrmling's breath weapon. The Brass Dragon Wyrmling used to have a breath weapon option that allowed it to either do fire breath or do sleep breath. Those are now 2 separate breath weapons. So the damaging one is now on a recharge, and the additional one is now completely independent and can be used whenever the Wyrmling wants to. So that in itself is quite a decent change there. Also, the sleep breath is kind of nice here that it has a cascading failure effect. It has it first applies the incapacitated condition and then applies the unconscious condition. The old one just went straight to unconscious, but I don't think that this is a big enough change to be an issue. All the new effects in 2024 that apply the unconscious condition do something similar to this. They first apply incapacitated and then go to unconscious. So this is just in line with what that new design is. And honestly, I think it works pretty well. So yeah, those are all the changes for the Wyrmling itself. So now that we've taken a look at the Wyrmling, let's go on to the young Brass Dragon. The young Brass Dragon is a large dragon of chaotic good alignment. It has an armor class of 17, an initiative of +3, 110 hit points, a speed of 40 feet, a burrow speed of 20 feet, and a fly speed of 80 feet. For its ability scores, it has a strength of 19, a dexterity of 10, a constitution of 17, an intelligence of 12, a wisdom of 11, and a charisma of 15. It is proficient in dexterity and wisdom saving throws. For its skills, it has perception at +6, persuasion at +5, and stealth at +3. It is immune to fire damage. For its senses, it has blind sight of 30 feet, dark vision of 120 feet, and a passive perception of 16. For its languages, it knows Common and Draconic, and this is a challenge rating 6 creature, giving it 2,300 experience points, and it has a proficiency bonus of +3. For its actions, the young Brass Dragon has a multi-attack that allows it to make 3 rend attacks. It can also replace 2 of its attacks with a use of Sleep Breath, so there's an additional option there. Rend has been slightly increased. It is now a +7 to hit and a reach of 10 feet, and it deals 2d10 +4 slashing damage. Additionally, Fire Breath is now a DC 14 dexterity saving throw. Is a 40-foot long, 5-foot wide line, and it deals 11d6 fire damage. Sleep Breath, in the same way, has also had its DC increased to 14, but the cascading effect of the incapacitated to unconscious is still the same. And the cone size is also increased to 30 feet as well. As for changes, there are a couple interesting ones here. First off, the young Brass Dragon is proficient in initiative rolls, so it now has a +3, which the old young Brass Dragon did not have. Just like its predecessor, it has lost Constitution and Charisma saving throw proficiency. This multi-attack is completely new, at least in the way it functions. The idea of replacing 2 of the attacks with the use of Sleep Breath is entirely new for it, so that's a cool inclusion there. And like I said before, the rend is the consolidation of its physical melee attacks, the bite and claw, so that is why it now makes 3 of those attacks instead of 1 bite and 2 claw attacks like it previously did. The Fire Breath has also slightly decreased its damage. It went from 12d6 to 11d6, so it lost a die. So that's not too crazy. And then, of course, Sleep Breath is entirely independent from fire breath, like I stated before. So, yeah. You can see how this is progressing. Now, let's talk about Brass Dragon layers real quick before we move on to adult and ancient Brass Dragons, since those are the ones that typically have layers affected by these conditions. So, the area containing an adult or ancient Brass Dragon's lair is altered by its presence, creating the following two effects for it, which last until the dragon dies or moves its lair elsewhere. Mirages. While in its lair, the dragon can cast a major image, requiring no material components and using the same spellcasting ability as its spellcasting action. When casting the spell this way, the spell's range is 1 mile, and the dragon doesn't need to see the spot where the illusion appears. Refreshing water. Water within 1 mile of the lair is magically refreshing. A creature that drinks such water gains 2d4 temporary hit points, and the dragon is immediately aware of the creature's presence. I like that last effect, that's pretty neat there. Alright, now that we have looked at these real quick, we can now move on to the adult Brass Dragon stat block. So the adult Brass Dragon is a huge dragon of metallic nature. It is chaotic good. It has an armor class of 18, an initiative of +10, 172 hit points, a speed of 40 feet, a burrow speed of 30 feet, and a fly speed of 80 feet. For its ability scores, it has a 23 strength, a 10 dexterity, a 21 constitution, a 14 intelligence, a 13 wisdom, and a 17 charisma. It is proficient in dexterity and wisdom saving throws. For its skills, it has history at +7, perception at +11, persuasion at +8, and stealth at +5. It is immune to fire damage. For its senses, it has blind sight 60 feet, dark vision 120 feet, and passive perception 21. It knows Common and Draconic as its languages, and it is a challenge rating at 13 creature, giving it 10,000 experience points, or 11,500 if encountered in its lair, and it has a proficiency bonus of +5. For its traits, the adult Brass Dragon has legendary resistance 3 times per day or 4 times per day in its lair, which simply allows it to succeed on a saving throw that it fails. For its actions, the dragon makes 3 rend attacks, and it can replace 1 attack with a use of either its sleep breath, or it can use its spell casting to cast Scorching Ray. Rend is now a +11 to hit and a reach of 10 feet, and it deals 2d10 +6 slashing damage plus 1d8 fire damage. Fire Breath has been increased to a DC 18, each creature in a 60-foot long, 5-foot wide line, and it now deals 10d8 fire damage. Sleep Breath has had its DC increased to 18, and it is now a 60-foot cone. And the spellcasting trait allows the dragon to cast one of the following spells requiring no material components and using Charisma as the spellcasting ability. Spell save DC 16. At will, the dragon can cast Detect Magic, Minor Illusion, Scorching Ray, Shape Change, which allows it to change into a beast or humanoid form only. It grants no temporary hit points from the spell, and it does not require concentration or any temporary hit points to maintain the spell itself. Speak with Animals can also be cast at will by the adult Brass Dragon. And finally, once per day each, the dragon can cast Detect Thoughts and Control Weather. Finally, for its legendary actions, the adult Brass Dragon has 3 uses of this feature. It has 4, alternatively, if it is encountered in its lair, which is very nice. And the options available to it are Blazing Light. This allows the dragon to use spellcasting and cast Scorching Ray. Pounce, which allows the dragon to move up to half its speed and make 1 rend attack. And Scorching Sands. This is a dexterity saving throw at DC 16. 1 creature the dragon can see within 120 feet. On a failure, it deals 68 fire damage, and the target speed is halved until the end of its next turn. On a failure or success, the dragon can't take this action again until the start of its next turn. Now that we've looked at the stat block, let's go over the changes to its 2014 counterpart. First off is going to be that higher initiative score. It is now double proficient in initiative, which is quite nice. It has lost Constitution and Charisma saving throw proficiencies. It now has that increased experience point bonus when encountered in its lair, as well as that additional use of legendary resistance and additional lair action when encountered in its lair, though that is entirely new. Its multi-attack has been greatly changed. That addition of using replacing one attack with a use of Sleep Breath or a casting of Scorching Ray is entirely new and quite a neat addition to the stat block. Rend, of course, is that consolidation of Bite and Claw and Tail attacks, which are no longer present in the stat block. Fire Breath has actually had its damage decreased slightly. Well, actually, no, it hasn't been decreased. What has instead happened is the dice that it uses has been changed. It used to be 13d6, and they've just changed it to 10d8, which is the exact same average, it's just different dice. So do with that as you will. Sleep Breath has been changed, as I've stated before. Spellcasting is a completely new trait, and this now has included the adult Brass Dragon's ability to change, or actually previously it did not have the ability to change into a creature, which most dragons did. The ancient Brass Dragon had the ability to change its shape into a beast or humanoid form. Or, yes, it did. The adult did not previously, so that is new for it technically. And it's doing that via the shape change spell now. So that will be the same in the ancient equivalent as well. And then finally, these legendary actions are entirely new. They have replaced the Detect, Tail Attack, and Wing Attack legendary actions, and I honestly think that's for the better because those weren't the best options in the stat block for the dragon to use. So those are entirely new there. Also of note, the adult Brass Dragon has lost the Frightful Presence that it previously had. That is no longer present anywhere in the stat block, but honestly, that really doesn't change the effectiveness of it at all. So yeah, the adult Brass Dragon has seen quite a few changes here, and we're going to see those carry over into the ancient variety as well, as we'll see just now. So the ancient Brass Dragon has had its size increased to gargantuan. It has an armor class of 20, a plus 12 initiative, 332 hit points, a speed of 40 feet, a burrow speed of 40 feet, and a fly speed of 80 feet. It has a strength of 27, a dexterity of 10, a constitution of 25, an intelligence of 16, a wisdom of 15, and a charisma of 22. For its skills, it has history plus 9, perception plus 14, persuasion plus 12, and stealth plus 6. It is, of course, immune to fire damage, has a blind sight of 60 feet, dark vision 120 feet, and a passive perception of 24. It knows common and draconic. It is a challenge rating 20 creature, giving it 25,000 experience points, or 33,000 if encountered in its lair, and has a proficiency bonus of plus 6. For its traits, legendary resistance has now increased to 4 times per day, or 5 times per day in its lair. Multi-attack is still allowing the dragon to make 3 rend attacks. It can now replace one attack with a use of either Sleep Breath or spellcasting to cast Scorching Ray at 3rd level, which is quite nice. Rend is now a plus 14 to hit and has its reach increased to 15 feet. It now deals 2d10 plus 8 slashing damage, plus 2d6 fire damage. Fire Breath has had its DC increased to 21. It is now a 90-foot long, 5-foot wide line, and it deals 13d8 fire damage. Sleep Breath has had its DC increased to 21 and is now a 90-foot cone. Spellcasting has not really changed, other than the fact that Scorching Ray has now increased to level 3, and the spell save DC has changed to DC 20. Finally, legendary actions have only changed in the fact here that Blazing Light now casts Scorching Ray at level 3, and Scorching Sands is increased to a DC 20. Its range is still 120 feet, and the damage for it has increased to 8d8 fire damage. So now we can go over the changes from its 2014 counterpart, which are going to be very similar to what we discussed in the adult version. First, that higher initiative score, which is now prevalent across all the dragons. Its hit points have actually increased slightly. It used to have 17d20 plus 119. It has gained 2 hit dice. So that has slightly increased its hit points, which is quite cool to see. Finally, it has lost Constitution and Charisma saving throw proficiency. It had its Charisma score increased to 22 from 19, which is a nice increase, which has affected its spellcasting ability. Persuasion, because of that charisma increase, has also increased from a plus 10 to a plus 12. There's that additional experience point bonus when encountering the ancient Brass Dragon in its lair, as well as the increase to the legendary resistance usages and the legendary action usages. It has the same change in its multi-attack, albeit the upcasting of that Scorching Ray. And the fire damage, or fire breath, has had its damage type slightly changed. It used to be 16d6 fire damage for an average of 56. That has slightly increased thanks to the die change by 2. Its average damage has increased by 2 because of that die change. So not crazy, but it is a small change there. And then finally, all the other changes we previously discussed here. Change shape has been replaced with that shape change spell, and frightening presence is no longer present at all in the stat block, and those legendary actions have been completely changed. So yeah, that's all the changes to these dragons. Quite a few. I actually really like the new designs for these dragons. The ancient Brass Dragon is just as good as the others in terms of changes that it's gotten. And I really think the multi-attack allows it to be a lot more interesting in combat. So I really appreciate the versatility of these new multi-attacks for these dragons. But yeah, that's going to be it for Brass Dragons. If you enjoyed this video, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. We're going through every monster in the 2024 Monster Manual, and actually next on our list are going to be the Bronze Dragons. They are next alphabetically, so yeah, that'll be the next video, so keep an eye out for that tomorrow. Until then, thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate your support, and I'll catch you all in the next one. See you guys later.